Hello. I just wanted to make a video to think out my thoughts about what's going on in Iran, and the protests that have taken to the streets, and the just general readiness to get rid of the Islamic Republic. So I grew up, both my mom came here when she was 16, my dad came here when he was 18 or something like that, and I just grew up always hearing about how repressive the Iranian regime is, and how little rights people had, how little freedoms people had to express themselves, to live with dignity. And on top of that, as I've gotten older, I've learned a lot about how the economic sanctions put on by other nations, like the United States especially, have really damaged the economy, as well as the government itself mismanaging a lot of their natural resources and finances, spending a lot of money on development, industrial development, the buildings of dams, deforestation, the buildings of oil refineries that have really damaged the ecology of Iran, and taken these resources from the dams, from the oil refineries, and sold them off to other nations. So the money that they're generating from these really harmful practices isn't even going back to the country. It's just lining the pockets of those in government and being exported to other nations. So obviously these protests were, they've popped up since the beginning of the Islamic Republic, and from what I've been told and from what I have read, it seems that the water scarcity situation, there's just not any drinking water left in Iran. Rivers have run dry. This huge lake Urmia is dry now. There's nothing there. Because of the ecological destruction, there just isn't any water, so people are without water. After the 12-day war with Israel, the economy just got very, very bad. The money is worth nothing there. It's just not, the economic situation is just not, it's not livable. And people's freedom is just very suppressed. There's no, people fought to even just get fucking hijabs removed as mandatory. So now we're seeing these protests, and it's so nuanced because on one hand, obviously the economic sanctions imposed by the United States and imposed by the West was with the goal of manufacturing consent to go in and intervene and put in their own puppet master who will play into their hands. And obviously that is Reza Pahlavi. While royalists and even people who aren't royalists but just see him as the only option, because he's not in Iran, because he's outside of Iran, he's able to lead people without being prosecuted by the Islamic Republic. If he was in Iran, and if any leaders in Iran pop up, the Islamic Republic will kill them immediately. They have no chance of unifying people. But royalists and people who just see Reza Pahlavi as the only option, see him as the only option because he's outside of the United States, and so Iran, he's outside of Iran, so he has a chance of unifying people without being killed. He's obviously a puppet of the West, and who's to say that if he got into power, he wouldn't sell out Iranian resources just like the Islamic Republic. But I know there's also this mentality of anything is better than the Islamic Republic, and to criticize Iranians for having that mentality is also fucked up, because they have been through so much. Hearing my family's standard of living, it's okay, we're in America and we fucking hate our government too, but we still have some level of freedoms here. I know it's different depending on your position in America, your citizenship status, your race, your whatever the fuck, all these identities put you in different levels of freedom. But Iranians are just kind of completely below whatever levels that is too. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think you understand what I'm saying. Like, no matter who I am in America, if I want a pair of Nike shoes, I can fucking go get those Nike shoes. If I want to go to a rave and shake my ass, I can go to a rave and shake my ass. In Iran, you can't afford those Nike shoes. And if anything, they're not going to be Nike. They're going to be Bikey, because it's a fucking, nobody's importing shit into Iran. You got to make one of those fake off-brand versions. And two, you can't shake ass. Dancing in the streets was fucking banned. You can't shake ass. Women are not allowed to show any sort of freedom in that way. So that's just to put it into context. But on the other hand, the left, I see criticisms. The right is obviously not supporting Iran for the right reasons either. They don't see Iranians as humans. They see Iranians as chess pieces for furthering U.S. imperialism. Okay, done. The left wants this political purity of Iranians to support them. But I think that's also false, because, like, Iranians aren't just their diaspora. We're hearing a lot of voices from Iranians outside of Iran that have kind of become westernized, and they see the enemy of their enemy as their friend, and this enemy of their enemy is Israel and is the United States. Also, we do have to note that a lot of the people who were a part of the 1979 revolution in Iran were trained with the PLO, I think it's called, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation, whatever. They trained with them. So a lot of Iranians, for some skewed reason, do blame the Palestinian resistance for playing a role in training the people who were able to overthrow the Shah and take power. A lot of the mullahs, a lot of the Islamic regime did have a lot of connection with the Palestinian resistance. I'm not saying that way of thinking is correct. It's just explaining where that way of thinking is coming from. A lot of rich Iranians who left Iran were able to go to Israel, were able to go to LA, where they just went further into their right-wing radicalization, thinking these false narratives that Israel and the US is going to be their saviors and kick the Islamic Republic out and give them back all their property that they owned in Iran, and which is obviously false too. Also, Iran is seen by Western leftists as the opposition force against Western imperialism, the protectors of the axes of resistance. And I think that's also false, because if you just like America isn't going and planning on interfering in Iran for the sake of Iranians. No, they're doing it for the sake of themselves, for retaining their power and for expanding their power. Same fucking thing for the Islamic Republic. The Islamic Republic is not funding Hezbollah, it's not funding Houthis, I don't think they fund Hamas, but they're not funding these, I don't know about the Hamas thing. They're not funding the axis of resistance. Sorry, I had chocolate all over my face. They're not funding the axis of resistance because they care about resistance, because they care about oppressed people. No, they're funding it because it gives them power in the Middle East. It gives them, they have a monopoly on power in the Middle East through the axis of resistance. And also the axis of resistance, we have to understand why they came to be in the first place. It's because of Western interference. It's because U.S. came in, did regime change, fucked everything up, fucked up economic situations, and so resistance groups formed because of that, just like in South America with the cartels. It was because of Western interference in those areas that created such horrible material conditions that kind of birthed these violent groups like cartels, like axis of resistance. And axis of resistance, you can't even just put them all in one thing. Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, they're all very different from one another. But they're not gonna be, I don't think the answer for liberation of people all over the Middle East is gonna come from the axes of resistance. I know that's a hot take. My bad. Some people might be mad about that one. Because if you want freedom for people, you can't say, all right, we'll give up some freedoms for a bigger freedom. That makes no sense. That logic just never has worked. That's what the hijab was in Iran. They said, fuck Western imperialism, fuck Western feminism, just give up the freedom to let your hair out. Just put a hijab on for the greater good of kicking out the West. And look where that led people. Now that was the first step in just a path of taking away so many different rights from women and from other marginalized groups. Like a lot of ethnic minorities, they suffered under the Islamic Republic and other identity groups. So I think to say, I want freedom for whoever, Palestinians, for Iranians, for Lebanese, for Syrians, for Iraqis, but I want that freedom to come from people who are not very, ideologically great. A lot of these extremist Islamic people are not that, they're not good. They've got a lot in common with Islamic Republic values, which is very repressive. I also think that it's dangerous to paint Islamic extremists as what Islam is as a whole. I know a lot of Iranians villainize Islam, and I think that's valid because they've been very traumatized by these extremists and these mullahs that have destroyed their country. And then what? Fucking Khamenei or whatever the fuck is running off to Moscow. He's gonna go to the spa with Putin. And all these other mullahs, all their families are in LA, all their family, fuck all of them. So I understand why Iranians are I know that this is some sort of manufactured consent, and I know that this isn't it's no coincidence that the US went into Venezuela just a week ago and now this is happening. But this opportunity of regime change is too good not to take advantage of. And I think that's fucking fair. Yes, but again, we should not conflate anti-extremists of any sort with Islam as just someone's religious identity. Because that's also really dangerous. Islam has existed in Iran for probably half of Iran's history. Iran is a very, very old, it's more than a country, it's more than a nation. Iran is just old as fuck. And for half its history, it has been a Muslim country. We got Rumi and the Sufis, that was all an Islamic, it was all Islam, yes. But it was only since the 1979 revolution that Islam got turned into a vessel for violence and control and exploitation and corruption. Yeah, so those are all my thoughts. Well, I'm sure I have a lot more. I've been very confused, and I know a lot of Iranians are mad at like Western leftists for not speaking out for support for Iranian resistance and Iranian protesters. That's fair. But also, there's a lot of fucking violence going on in the world. Nobody owes anybody anything. If you care about something, then you'll talk about it. But there's so much violence, like, in every corner of the world. Expecting people to, like, talk about every situation of oppression is a little insane. I get you're mad, but, like, people care about what they care about, and we can't be upset. Like, there's no point in further dividing us. Like, if there's people that support your cause, that's great. Like, bring them in. But you can't be mad at other people for focusing on other causes. I know a lot of Iranians are also like, damn, like, all these Western leftists spoke up for Palestine, but they're not speaking up for Iran. Well, you have to understand, a lot of Iranians are Zionist. So if you're, like, a diehard pro-Palestinian, which we all fucking should be, it's kind of hard to align yourself with the Zionists. It's kind of hard to align yourself with people who are tagging Netanyahu in every post, tagging Trump in every post. Like, I want to see your liberation, but if your liberation means I have to align myself with these horrible fuck-ass people, I will find other ways to support your liberation. Like, I refuse to see Iranian liberation as the same as supporting Zionism. And it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. In a lot of the diaspora protests, there's Israeli flags being waved and American flags being waved, and it's just embarrassing. Like, I don't know. Iranians' liberation is not gonna come from Western imperialism and these fucking Nazi fascist states. Like, it's like being like, yo, Hitler, can you help me reclaim my liberation? Okay. Hitler might help you reclaim your liberation, but he's gonna turn around and fucking you too. Like, it makes no sense. So that's, I think, why a lot of leftists are a little bit quiet about this. A little leftist, this is confusing their, like, political purity of, well, Iran helped Palestinians and I am pro-Palestinian, so I must be pro-Iran. That's also a really unnuanced take, uncritical take. Iran didn't help Palestinians. Like I said before, Iran didn't help Palestinians for Palestine. Like, they did it for themselves. And I'm sure they didn't really even help all that much. They just, like, I don't know, bombed Israel. Or, like, airstriked Israel. Ugh, I feel like I'm getting all my facts fucked up. Yeah, so, I don't know. I've just been trying to make sense of the situation, especially because I am in the diaspora. I've never been to Iran. And I have a lot of my family members who've just freshly come from Iran. A lot of younger women family members who were in the front lines of getting arrested over and over so that the hijab wasn't enforced. And so I feel for them when they see these protests and they want to see them succeed by any means necessary. I feel for them. I just think that it's important to not say, anything is better than the Islamic Republic, because that's what people said in 1979. Anything is better than the Shah. And then who did they get? The fucking Islamic Republic. So if you have that mentality of anything is better, without any organization, you can get in a situation that's way worse. And I know people are like, it can't be way worse, but it can. It can also, in the sense that if you get if you become a part of the fascist state, the imperial core, then you will also be perpetuating the harm that you wish to have been liberated from onto other people. So that's another thing. Yeah, so, and also, like, me having these opinions and other people having these opinions, like, it's not gonna do all that much. Like, we could talk about it, but essentially what's gonna form, what's gonna decide, oh shit, I'm stuck onto my sweater. what's going to decide what happens in Iran is going to be the Iranians inside Iran. Well, we'll see. Hopefully they're the ones that decide. But they're the ones doing the thing. Like, we could all be chatting on our fucking Instagrams, but they're the ones who are on the street. They're the ones who know what's actually happening. And we don't, especially not now with the internet blackout. So that's a really scary thing. But I think it's important to be critical of Iranians in the diaspora and who they're supporting. It's important to be critical of the people who are claiming to play fairy godmother for Iranians when they have been equally repressive and corrupt as much as the Islamic Republic. Like, Trump being like, oh, we're gonna save the Iranians. Like, you're super fucking corrupt too. Like, you don't care about human rights. And it's also very, very important to be critical of the Islamic Republic. Just because they're anti-imperialist and anti-Western does not mean that they're good. And, yeah. Okay.